This is going to be a word and image demo showing us how to work with images in Adobe InDesign. Let's get going. Okay, so in InDesign, there are two ways to bring in an image for a professional document. They are linked or they're embedded. When you are submitting work in Word and Image, final work, final InDesign files, you'll be packaging them. But when you actually construct them in the first place, all images that you bring in your artwork primarily are going to be linked images. This means that the InDesign is going outside of itself to find the image that you've linked it to, and it is showing the image in InDesign, obviously, but it is linked to an outside file, a file that you can edit and then update. It's very flexible, and it is a professional workflow that you're supposed to work with. So when you do, in this professional workflow, when you do package your InDesign file and you make that folder full of files with that function in the file menu, you'll see that your folders this week for the joke and image project will or should include a folder called links. And that links folder will include any images that you brought into your design. I'm showing you an example of a random design project, final project. This has several linked photos or images in it at this time. So that'll be kind of what you're looking for when you put together that packaged folder and submit it to me. It should have a links folder, and it should have your imagery in it. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about how to get those images into InDesign. So very simply, it's a matter of using the file place function. That is to go up to File and find Place. It's also a Command D in the Mac, or Apple D, Command D to quickly start placing things. But let's do it the old-fashioned way. Now, there are two ways to get it on the page as well, or for it to happen on the page. You can either have a pre-created frame ready to go to have the image in it, and you select it and place it in that. So you would take the frame tool here, and you would drag out your frame, and you'd have a frame ready to go. I've already got a frame ready to go, so I'll start with this guy. I'm going to hit File, and I'm going to go to Place. And when I do that, it should open up the Finder, and I have to track down my fruit bowls. So the fruit bowl is, I've got a fruit bowl somewhere around here. Ah, there it is, fruit bowl JPEG. I'm going to open that guy up. Boom. All right, there's my fruit bowl. So the fruit bowl is ready to go. Now that's one way to bring it in. The other way is to simply not have anything selected on the desktop and go to File, Place, and find that fruit bowl or whatever you're trying to bring in, hit Open, and you'll see that my cursor is now loaded with that image, ready to go. Now, if I just click and don't drag, it's going to drop that image in at the actual size that it actually is, which is way too big for what I want it to do. So I'm going to undo this. It'll go back to being in my cursor in my clipboard, ready to go. So what I want to do is actually want to click and drag it out to control the size of it. And then I release, and I have placed my image in. Once you've got your images in, keep a reminder of how different this might be from what you might be ready or used to in Photoshop, and especially in Illustrator. Illustrator, when you bring an image in, you can have linked images in Illustrator. It does have a place function, but they just come in and they simply are. They are not in a frame. InDesign puts everything in frames. So this is in a frame. So if I grab the corner and I drag it, it's going to crop my image, which is kind of handy because sometimes you don't want the whole image in. I can crop it in, crop it out, crop. I can see that I can go beyond there, and I've got just empty space beyond there. The image itself is also something you can select within the frame. So I can select it by grabbing this little donut in the middle here, this little circle here, and I can actually drag my image around in the frame and crop it that way. I also can, if I select it with my direct selection tool, I can also see this brown line that represents the edge of it that goes out. It's a guideline, borderline, bounding box, whatever you want to call it. And you can see where the extent of your image is outside of your frame by doing that. Let's hit the W so we can actually see that. Ooh, what a mess. There's too many lines. Let's just keep it simple. All right. So you can move it around in there, and actually you can control the size of it. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and make it a little bit smaller so I can actually make it smaller. And they're both doing that. I can crop them both. All right. So that's how images behave in InDesign. Let's keep moving. All right. So while we're talking about images, one of the first stumbling blocks that many new people to InDesign encounter when they're dealing with their imagery, bringing it in, especially my students, it's very frustrating because you'll bring in a wonderful, high resolution, highly detailed illustration that you've labored on, and you'll bring it in InDesign, and it will look pixelated and nasty when you bring it into the project, or onto the page rather. That is more than likely not a real resolution problem. It is because InDesign is built to assume that we are doing very large projects, or potentially very large projects that can contain hundreds of pages, thousands of images, perhaps, a lot of text, a lot of fonts, a lot of stuff. It needs to be able to run and keep track of an enormous amount of detail, enormous amount of files and information. And so InDesign has been designed as a default to make all the images that come into it view at a very low resolution setting, so it does not eat as much processing power, and it leaves more power for InDesign to handle large documents. We are not making a large document, and we'd like to see our artwork looking nice and sharp. So all you have to remember is when you bring your artwork in and it doesn't look right, is to try View, Display Performance. It's on Typical normally, that's the default, and put it on High Quality. And immediately we see a better quality contour on our artwork. It is no longer really pixelated. And that will be a big improvement. So just remember, View, Display Performance, and choose High Quality, and you should be okay. All right, let's get into the links panel. This is the headquarters where your images are kept track of, your linked images at the very least. So let's say, let's find that links one. This is a close-up so we can see some of the closer details. I'm going to get the actual one open, and there it is. So I'm sorry, I went pretty fast with that. Window, links, and you get your links open, and here it is with all its wonderful things. So great, we've got a bunch of, all of my images that are linked or embedded are listed here in a nice long line or a stack, like a laundry list. There are 3 columns. There's the naming column that names them. There's a column for their status, and there's a column for what page they happen to fall on. Beneath that is something called a quick options panel, I believe, or box. And then below that is, this is either on or not on. You can turn this on or off depending on clicking on this. If you click on this, it will open up the linked info and it shows you information about your linked, the image that you've selected. A lot of that can be ignored, but there's a couple of things in the linked information that could be very useful to know. We'll talk about that shortly. Let's talk about what some of these things do. So I'm going to get the actual links panel going because this one can't do things. So the page numbers are useful. Let's drag this out for a second. Great. The page numbers are useful because you know what page your image is on, and you can click on it and go there. There's also occasionally, you may run into this or not, but anytime you have more than the same image more than once in your document, it should make a little folder and keep them all into one little folder of where that particular fruit bowl is. And I've got all these fruit bowls in there. And actually, there's a little number here next to the fruit bowl in the folder up here that tells you how many fruit bowls are in there. It says 5, and there's 5 in here, and all the pages that they're on, including one called P and B or PB, and that is pasteboard. There's actually one fruit bowl that happens to be on my pasteboard and not actually on a real page, and it's keeping track of it. I can find it if I want to, and if I want to get to one, I just simply click on it, and it takes me to that fruit bowl and it selects it, and I've got it ready to go, and I got all the information for it ready to roll. Let's get back to the page we started on. There we go. All right, so that's the use of those numbers. Let's talk about some icons, shall we? Oh, well, I should mention that you can click on these numbers to get to the pages. You can also select one of these guys, one of these images, and just simply go to the Go To button here, which is this guy here, which will go to the link as well. It's the same as clicking on the page number. So I don't usually use this one when I can just click on the page number. All right, so we now have some icons I want you to be aware of. We've got a little gray box with a square overlapping a triangle. That is an embedded file. You should not be embedding files for your projects typically. It's really something that I find useful for projects like if I have a series of ads and I use the same template in InDesign, then I might want, and each of the ads has the same logo in it every time, but different other artwork, then I would embed the logo so I don't have to worry about that as being a loose file that's outside of InDesign. Every time you embed an image, it makes the InDesign file larger and potentially slower. So it's better to have them linked. That's another way to keep the things a little bit, keep the processing power down. I'm not going to show you guys how to embed. If you're really interested, you can Google it. Let's talk about some of these other icons. Oh, I should talk about the non-icons. Anytime you see an image that doesn't have anything in the status column, that means that it's happy. It's linked. There's no problems. It's not embedded. There's no problems. None of these other problems are that the red or the yellow problems are happening. Let's talk about the red and the yellow problems. The red will save because that's the more serious one. The yellow is something I will show in practice later on in the demo, but it basically means, hey, I noticed that the image that you have linked in this document was edited outside of this document by some program, maybe Photoshop, maybe Procreate, whatever. And the image I'm showing you right now in InDesign is the old version, and you probably want to see the new version. So you're going to want to update this. Now you could double click on the yellow to do that, or you could use the little recycle button down here. But I'm going to show you that later in the demo. So keep something to look forward to. All right. So the red one is the one where you should really get a little bit nervous, because the red one means that the path to that link is broken. The link is broken. InDesign does not know where this image is in the hard drive that you are in, the computer that you're on. And that can be serious. It could be just that something simple has happened, like you misplaced it. It's not in the folder that InDesign thinks it should be in, or maybe you change the title of the folder. If you change a file name, that can also mess up the link. And you'll just have to either relink it under the new file name or the new file folder name. And I'll show you, basically how to do that. Or the real problem could be you moved from another computer to this computer and you did not bring that image with you. You didn't package it properly, or it was mislaid somehow, or maybe it got corrupted. Something's happened to that image and it's no longer available. That's much more serious if you need that image. So this is something you have to address and figure out, because anytime you see that little icon, that means that image, it'll appear in its low-res version on the screen, on your page rather. It will print in low resolution, but it will not print the high resolution that you need. And that would be a serious craft problem. And would also be a serious problem for a professional job, because the original image was not available and a crappy version is going to print. And that's going to cause trouble with your client and trouble with the workflow. So pay attention to that red, angry stop sign. All right. Down here, we've got some information about the file that's selected. Most of this you can ignore, but pay attention to the actual PPI and the effective PPI, which are in the mid-range here. Those are important when you're trying to deal with and keep your resolution craft good on a project. Let's keep moving, and let's move the links panel maybe back here. All right. All right. Still in the links panel. We're going to deal with some of those angry icons, that status icons. So here we go. And we can't really see the problem right now because I've got it on preview. So I'm going to hit the W so we can actually see the page, and we can see all of the bounding boxes and guides and whatnot. All right. So the problem here is we've got two images, and I don't know if you can see on your screen, and even if I zoom, I don't think it's going to get any bigger, but in the very small in the corner of both of these images are some of those status icons. The orange has the little yellow yield sign triangle, and the apple has the red angry I'm missing a link, or my link is broken status sign. Now, you could fix this a couple of ways. Let's start with the apple. The apple is more serious, and we're going to fix it. Now, if you don't want to go into the links folder, I believe you could just simply hover over that little icon and double click on it, and it'll start the process. But I do want you to know how to do it out of the links, out of the link panel. So I'm going to do it through the link panel. So find your option, make sure you've got the right thing selected. The Apple isolated JPEG is selected, and I'm going to double click the red stop sign, and that should open up the Finder. Now the Finder is going to help me try and find this, and hopefully it's on the dock in my computer. To make it helpful, at the very top of the Finder, it will list it'll list where it thought it was. It'll show you part of the path that leads through the computer to find that image, that it's no longer working. But at the end of it, it'll show you the name of the file. And that'll be helpful if you just want to type that in and search your computer. So use the search bar, and I'm going to look for Apple -isolated. And and there it is. Found it very quickly. And I have 3 of them on the computer, so I'm all set. I'm not going to worry about which one I'm using. They're all the same size, so they must be the same file, right? Well, you might be a little bit nervous about it. So if you're nervous, you can quickly check a file in the Finder on a Mac by hitting the space bar, and it will show you the file. That looks like the file. The space bar will do a quick view. They're all the same file, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to open that file. Boom. All right, now in the corner and up here, it's blank. In the links panel, it's blank. It doesn't have an angry status button on it or icon. And in the corner of this happy image now, there is a little chain link. That means I am linked and happy. Let's talk about the orange. Now the orange is saying I've been edited outside of InDesign and I need to be updated. Again, I could double click there, and let's do that for this one. I can just double click on that icon right now and it should really just update it right away. So double click on it. Aha, it was edited and now it's happy. So that is what will happen when you edit. All right. I'm sorry, when you use the link panel and you have those icons and how to solve some of those icons. Let's keep moving. Oh, yes, we'll keep moving because the next thing, we've got a link panel we don't need. Here we go. Let's open up the full page. Let's hit the W so we don't have to see all of the guides. All right, and we'll open up this links real quick. Talk a little bit about screen resolution as a craft. We're going to talk more about it going into our the big project, and first big project, 3-week project. But I want you to be aware of a phenomenon when it comes to resolution. First of all, there's 2 ways of referring to resolution. Let's select this flower petal. There is something called PPI and DPI. PPI is means points or pixels per inch. And DPI means dots per inch. Dots per inch, it refers to printing on paper and the tiny little dots of ink that make up an image in a halftone effect. PPI refers to points of measurement that are usually more related to screen use. But both of them are kind of interchangeable in a way. InDesign refers to all the image resolution as PPI. So that's what you want to keep an eye on. So I want you to realize that a professionally printed document will have 300 DPI or PPI resolution. That is the minimum for an image to print in a professional quality level. And that's what you guys should be shooting for when you make any imagery for your artwork. Shoot for a print resolution that is 300 or higher. We'll get more into dealing with that. But just, and if you don't know how to set up resolution in your Procreate or your Photoshop, you might want to Google that. Just so you know how to set up a resolution for your documents. Whoops. Here we go. So print resolution. What you need to know about it is that it changes depending on what you do to the image when you bring it into InDesign or anywhere really. If you scale it up, it makes the resolution get lower, because what you're doing is you're taking all those little dots or points of ink or pixels of color and you're spreading them apart subtly. But the InDesign has to say, well, I have to fill a bunch of dots in between those 2 dots that were original dots, and I'm going to make it up. And so the resolution is going to get fuzzy and it's going to get a little bit weird and glitchy on you. So if you bring in an image, it's going to get a little weird. If you start, potentially it's going to lose it could get, if you scale it up, it could get to a point where it no longer has print quality resolution, and that's a problem. And if you scale it down, it'll actually go up in resolution or actual resolution. So the thing you want to keep track of is I'm going to click on my little petal here. I'm going to look at what it says under link info. If it's not open, remember you can open up the link info with that little arrow there. And I'm looking at the actual PPI and the effective PPI. The actual PPI right now for this image is 600. This was scanned in at 600 PPI. So it is twice the amount needed for a professional print. And that means I could make it twice as large and still keep it at 300 DPI or PPI. And I've actually done that. If I select it and I go up here, I look in my control panel, I see that I've made it almost 200% larger. It's 191% larger than original. If I wanted to show you the original size, I would just go to 100%. And there it is. That's the original size. But it has enough resolution to actually get up to twice its size. So I could actually make it 200% larger, and it would still be 300 DPI. If I go beyond that and I make it 400 DPI, it won't fit in the box or frame it's in, but it will also all of a sudden be 150 PPI and no longer quality resolution. In fact, if you look at it, you see it's getting fuzzy and a little bit, fuzzy and kind of dialed out. It's no longer got sharp detail. So that's what you want to watch out for. Resolution is an important quality or craft issue to keep track of, along with page size and other things. All right. Last little tip at the end. In another video, I talk about interrelating type and image, and I show examples of overlapping type and image. So let's show you a way of doing that in InDesign. Because you might want to do that because it is a nice effect. So my rooster here is, and let's see, do I still have this thing on display performance? Oh, it's the high, this is just a low resolution rooster. He's not very high resolution. He's 74 PPI. Oh, just good for using on the screen, not for printing. But that's all we need him to do. We just need him to show you what he's doing. All right, so I've got him set him up with a transparency, and I've made him in Photoshop. Well, I stole him and then masked him in Photoshop. So he is a PSD file. I've saved him as a PSD file. A PSD file is a useful file format. It is a native Photoshop file. So it's my go-to file for most of the stuff I save, unless I really need to get file size down, then I might use a JPEG, but you can't have transparency in a JPEG. So if you want to do this trick, you're going to have to save it as a PSD file. Note that those of you guys who are in Procreate on your tablets, you can export files as PSD files with their transparency included. So look that up, and you can do this trick. All right, so here's where we're going to show you one of the reasons why linked images are useful for your workflow. So my chicken is, it doesn't look great because it's been updated, and I haven't clicked that. Oh, there we go. This should hopefully fix it. Now it looks much better. Oh, that's why it looked like nasty, because I hadn't updated it. That's another reason why your art might look weird, is that it hasn't been updated to the latest version, and InDesign sort of faking it. So that's looking much better now. All right. So I want to select that chicken, and I want to go and I take it out to Photoshop to show you it in Photoshop. So I could do it two ways. I could click on the little pen or pencil icon here to edit it, and it would go straight to Photoshop. The problem is that this was if this would work fine, it will work fine for this image, but if it was one of these JPEGs and I hit that, it's going to open it up in Preview or some other program that you're not going to be able to edit it in. So let me show you the safest way to open up an image in the program you want it to. You go to the corner of the links panel, you click on the little option menu, and you go down to edit with, and you choose among the possible applications that could be used. And I want to use Photoshop. So let's open Photoshop. So I'm opening up in Photoshop, and it has opened in Photoshop. We'll bring it over here so you can see it. And there's my chicken. You can see the original chicken in the layers panel. It had a yellow background that I have masked out in my duplicate panel, or duplicate layer rather. I've done some color corrections and whatnot. In fact, I think, just for kicks, I'll do some more color corrections so I can show you an edit. So let's get funky. So here it is. The beauty of this is that now I can make some edits to it, and it will automatically update in InDesign. That can be very useful and convenient for you guys, so that you don't have to make an edit to an image, then save that image, then remember to place that image again, or replace an image that you have in InDesign. Because what happens in real life, in agencies and whatnot, and in your classroom, is that you're going to get a lot of suggestions for edits, or you're going to have a lot of ideas for edits. Your image is going to be a work in progress. And so you're going to want to have a straight access to an authoring program that you can make edits to. I'm not sure if it will be as easy with Procreate if you're trying to like work in Procreate and on a Mac or a computer at the same time. I'm not sure if it will easily jump to the Procreate from that program. There might be a way to do that, but if all the programs are actually on the machine that you're working on, then you should be able to leap back and forth between InDesign and the authoring program you want to use. All right, so let me do a quick edit. Let's get a little close here. You'll see that I have gone to the trouble of cutting this guy out, leaving a little anti-alias so it's not too harsh an edge. So it blends a little bit with whatever background it's got. There's techniques involved here. But I've got my guy, and you can see that it's got the telltale checkerboard transparency background. So that'll go away. But as soon as a transparent, when I show the background image, but once I get rid of that background image and we're talking about a transparency again, you see that checkerboard. So I know that that's a wonderful thing. All right, so let's use this. Yes, the curves. Let's see what happens if I mess with the curves. All right, I've done some really crazy damage to my chicken. I just want to show you that there's going to be a change. So I'm going to save this, Command Save, Command S rather. And now I can go back to InDesign. And when I click into InDesign, it should know that I made that edit. There it is. It made the edit. All right. I'm going to now go right back out again because I hate that edit. So now I'm going to just click the edit original, and it should take me right back to Photoshop because, again, it's a Photoshop file, and there's only one place you can really edit a Photoshop file. And I'm going to go into Photoshop, and I'm going to undo that horrible thing I did and save it again. And back I go. Hey, he's back to normal. Great. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you, and thank you for listening, and contact me if you have any questions.